They thought they were just trimming a few branches. I thought it would be a neighbor thing, a little talking, maybe an apology, and instead I ended up trimming $40,000 off their bottom line quietly with paperwork and patience. Funny how the quiet fights sometimes win. I live in a sleepy neighborhood outside Cedar Hollow, the kind where people wave from their trucks, and your worst scandal is leaving the trash cans out too long. I bought a little ranch 12 years ago. Nothing fancy. Just a deep backyard with 6 massive oaks planted like sentries along the rear property line. Those trees were older than the house, older than me as far as my memory goes. Thick trunks, a canopy that drops the summer heat, 10 degrees and mornings that felt framed by moving leaves. You get used to a rhythm like that. Coffee at the kitchen window, the dog at your feet. Sunlight woven in and out of branches, it becomes part of your day. Then Martin moved out. He'd been there forever, quiet, a wave over the fence and some small talk about property tax. When Evan and Claire moved in, they were the opposite of Martin, late 30s. 2 kids, a golden retriever, 2 SUVs, and that energy of people who are always rearranging things. We did the neighbor routine. I brought a 6-pack, we exchanged pleasantries, the kids ran around my yard for a while, and I thought, okay, fine, new faces, new voices, same fence line. By mid-April, something changed. One morning, sunlight hit a patch of my yard that had always been shaded. I walked the fence line and saw clean cuts, pale wood, where dark bark had been branches, missing some reaching 2 or 3 feet onto my side. Not storm damage, not rot, clean saw cuts. These were done with a chainsaw. I stood there longer than I wanted to admit, feeling weirdly violated, like someone had taken more than a clipping. They'd opened something. I don't do drama. I walked across the yard, knocked on Evan's door, and asked, calm, steady, if he'd had someone trim the oaks. He shrugged. They were hanging over our yard, blocking light, figured I'd take care of it. I pointed out that several cuts were on my side of the line. He gave that dismissive nod people use to minimize complaints. They'll grow back, he said. They're trees. 2 days later, Russell, an arborist with a weather-beaten face and a clipboard, came by. He walked the line more carefully than I had, paused at each scar and shook his head. Cuts are too close to the trunk, he said. No collar preserved that opens the tree to disease. Topping is a terrible idea for oaks. You get weak regrowth, water sprouts, structural problems. If one fails, later removal could be $5-6 grand. Hearing the numbers made it suddenly less sentimental and more real, a ledger with consequences. I mailed Evan a certified letter, photos, Russell's written assessment, and a polite but firm request that he cover treatment costs and refrain from any further trimming without written agreement. No answer. 2 weeks went by, and at 7:12 one morning, I woke to a chainsaw, like someone was sawing the morning in half. I pulled on jeans and boots and ran out. Evan was on a ladder in my yard, cutting through the main leader of one of the largest oaks, not trimming overhang, but topping the crown like it was a hedge. Line, he said. Figured I'd even it out, line, he said. Figured I'd even it out. It's blocking our upstairs light. Claire wants more sun. It's not personal, he added. Like that made it cleaner. Standing there with my heart in my throat, I told him, it is personal when you walk onto my property and hack a tree in half. He climbed down, no apology, just carried his saw across the fence like he'd borrowed a rake. That night, Russell returned and didn't bother to sugarcoat it. Topping an oak shocks it, he said. You could get vigorous but weak water sprouts that leave the tree structurally compromised. It may not recover. That phrase, may not recover, made the ceiling feel too close. Around 2 a.m., I started digging. Evan had said he worked in redevelopment. A little poking online showed he was a managing partner at a small outfit that flipped houses. Suddenly, what looked like carelessness folded into tactic. If you're flipping, you do math, more light, better photos, higher resale. If a quick cut yields a bump in price, some folks treat a boundary like a suggestion. Realizing that changed how I wanted to respond. I could blow up the street and make a scene, and maybe he'd keep pushing. Or I could use things that don't shout codes, permits, inspections, records. So I called Cedar Hollow's urban forestry and asked what the rules were. The answer mattered. The city treats significant trees as protected canopy. Trimming beyond certain limits requires a permit, and topping is prohibited without review. I submitted photos, Russell's assessment, and a property survey showing where the trunk sat. An inspector came, measured the diameter, photographed the damage, and satisfyingly, in a bureaucratic way, the city issued a $1,500 fine for unauthorized topping. It wouldn't heal the wound, but it put an official mark on the record. Next, I pulled public records. Evan's listing boasted a finished basement and a custom deck features that sell houses, but the permits were missing no record. For the finished basement, no deck permit, no electrical sign-off. I called building compliance. 2 weeks later, another inspector showed up, this time with ladders and a clipboard, and they started poking into the house. Unpermitted electrical, improper plumbing tie-ins, deck footings, not to code egress windows, too small fixes that aren't a quick patch, but a rip it open and rebuild affair. In the flipping world, time is money. Delays bleed margin. Word spread the way small town things do. Contractors filled the driveway. Trucks idled in the street. Claire paced on her phone. The deck came down first, loud, messy, and the backyard became a construction site. I won't pretend I didn't feel some grim satisfaction when every hammer sounded like consequence, but it was a slow, administratively tidy sort of justice. Watching someone else's stress unfold forces hard questions about motive. Was I protecting my property or savoring the payback? The answer was both. That doesn't make it nobler, but it does make it honest. Russell became an unexpected ally through all of this. He checked the trees, weekly left notes about treatments, and sometimes we'd stand in the dappled shade trading tired jokes about how trees make terrible neighbors when people can't keep their hands off them. Those small visits mattered. They turned irritation into stewardship. I filed a small claim suit with before and after photos, the arborist's report, the city's violation notices, and certified mail receipts proving I'd tried to resolve it. I asked for the county maximum. Courtrooms are not dramatic. Fluorescent lights, a clerk typing, people shifting in uncomfortable chairs. You say your piece and wait. Evan showed up, neat, practiced. Claire sat beside him, the kids waiting out in the lobby. I stuck to the facts, date, certified mail, the arborist's evaluation, the city's official action. Evan's defense leaned on, we didn't mean harm, and the trunk straddled the line, but the judge read the reports and 2 weeks later awarded $7,500 in my favor. Not everything I asked for, but enough to cover treatment and set aside a fund if removal ever proved necessary. By December, the house had fresh listing photos promising sun-filled rooms, but public records later showed the final sale price barely cleared what Evan had paid once you added fines, contractor bills, reconstruction, and holding costs. Margins evaporated. One cold morning, I watched a moving truck pull away and saw Evan standing in the driveway, hands in pockets, eyes averted, and for a breath across the fence line we met. No wave, no apology, just the thin silence of someone who'd miscalculated what was free to take. A new family moved in next spring. First-time buyers with cookies and questions about the trees. I told them what they needed to know. People like tidy endings and stories, but the truth is messier. My oaks are scarred. The largest will never look the same. The canopy will regrow unevenly, and every summer I'll be reminded of a hack job someone thought would be a clever shortcut. I also learned something about myself. I'm not confrontational. I avoid drama. But patience, paperwork, and persistence are tools too quieter, slower, and in this case effective. Evan treated small violations as the cost of doing business. He miscalculated when a neighbor decided to keep score. My effort wasn't about cruelty. It was about making the ledger balance, showing that it's not personal, doesn't make an overreach lawful. If there's a moral, it's modest, respect your neighbor's property. It's not just about permits or money, it's about decency. And when someone crosses the line, you can choose the loud path or the slow, steady one that uses facts in the system. It doesn't feel glamorous, but sometimes justice sounds like paperwork being filed and a chainsaw finally going silent. So, what do you think? Was I right to call the city and press the matter into court? Or did I cross a line into retaliation? At what point does protecting your property become petty revenge? Drop your take, I read the comments. If you're sitting on a similar battle scar from an oak or a deck or a bad neighbor, tell me about it. Sometimes the quiet fight is the one that really wins.